time letting go of it emotionally. So she has all of her retirement money tied up in this property. And so she's just kind of got this number stuck in her head. And I'm like, I'm just going to tell you the truth. The market is telling us it's not going to give us 650 for this property. And she just won't go. And she even sent me a text message. She's like, I know you think I'm nuts, but I'm just really holding out for it. I'm like, okay, well, you said. No, we've had good showings and we've had some good response, but we've also been on the market for 4 months. And
I think that's the average right now, 2 to 4 months, honestly.
Oh, it's the day. Yeah, unless you have a cream puff house. Mm-hmm. Yeah, unless you have a cream puff house and affordable housing price range, days on market of like 15, 20 days, that's not really happening anymore. That's if you have, like you said, if you have a 290 to 350 house in Raymore in one of the sweet subdivisions, that'll go right away. Other than that, I think we're in that 4 to 6 month range again. That's going to start changing though here. Have you seen 2 weekends yet or no? Okay. Okay. How many showings have you had on it? Okay. Yeah, that's good. That feels good to me.
The key to that one is the half bath and the master.
Oh, it doesn't have a full.
That's the problem.
It doesn't have a full bath in the master.
It doesn't have a shower stall.
Okay.
If they take out that other closet and rework it a little bit, they should be able to get a shower pan in there. So.
Okay, so you guys remember from real estate school when the features of the house aren't quite desirable anymore is called what? You guys remember that term? It's 2 words. Functional obsolescence. It's functional. It's just an obsolete feature, right? Because now people want what? A shower, a bathtub, dual vanities in the master. That's a thing. You know, if you have a single vanity, that's almost kind of strike against you if you only have 1 sink bowl. A single car garage on a house would be now considered functional obsolescence, right? People are wanting 2 car garages. What are some other things out there that are functional obsolescence? HVAC in the crawl space. It's not very convenient to change the air filter, is it? It's functional, but it's not ideal. What about non-walk-in closets or small closets? Right? People are like, hey, I don't even know if my clothes will fit in there. Well, you got too many clothes. You need to give some to Salvation Army, man. Like my first house, it was like, my great grandparents built it, if that tells you anything. And the master suite, like it's like a 10 by 11 bedroom, and it had 1 closet in it, and it was like this wide. So for 2 people to have their clothes, but like back then, my great grandpa wore the same suit like every day, and he just changed his, he had like a couple of different shirts, but he just had 1 suit. Now we've got a different outfit for every day of the month, and the closets are 10 by 15, and but small closets are functionally obsolete now because where do you put all your crud that you store? So we're going to be talking a little bit about functional obsolescence today.
Find out, let me know.
What are we going to let you know? Functionally obsolete, because this does functional obsolescence affect the list price of a house. It does, right? So like maybe Tony's house is a killer house and it's awesome, but man, I don't want to have to walk down the hall and share the shower with my kids. I really want to just hop. That could affect the sellability of the house. I got some clients right now that are looking for a house, and I found the perfect house for them, but it's only got a 2-car garage, and they really need a 3-car garage. Well, that's almost now. Certain families, a 2-car garage is functionally obsolete because they park both their cars, and then they're like, "Where do I put my riding lawnmower?" I don't know, man. Why do you need a riding lawnmower? You live in Eagle Glen. Your yard's this big. get a push mower, hire the kid across the street. I don't know. So we're going to be talking about some of that because that can affect, that's a conversation that we oftentimes will get into with our sellers. What are some things that you guys desire to talk about, or is there any conversations that you're having with sellers? Maybe it's an objection when you meet a seller for a listing presentation, because I also, I've got a roadmap today, but I also want to make sure that we role play and that we have the conversations that you guys are seeing out there and that you're wanting. Is there any objections that sellers are giving you? Is that commission conversation? Do we need to revisit that? Do we need to go through what the actual preparation prior to listing looks like? Do we need to walk through what it looks like when they're having showings and how the sellers are supposed to respond there? Are any of those things handy for you guys at all? Nothing. No response whatsoever. I have no idea how to read this room.
Well, so like the sellers that I've been working on since June, basically, there's a lot of little work that needs to be done to the home. I've given them two options on it: either sell it as is, and it's a 230, 240 house, maybe.
Okay.
From all the work that needs to be done on it, because it's basically 1980.
Okay.
They've done some foundation work, but they need to replace the roof. They got to finish the walls, everything like that. Basically, do a complete update. And they seemed leery at that point. Then I gave them option B, which I offered them a contractor to come in and do what we thought was kind of the work that needed to be done, which is about $45,000 worth of work.
Okay.
To update it, to bring it close enough that it would sell.
Okay.
It's in a really nice pocket. They're in Bridlesburg, so the homes range from 300 to 450, depending on where they're at.
Sure.
And if they did the $40,000 updates, we're looking at probably a 330, 340 price point.
Okay.
And I can't get them to make a decision on it.
Indecision. That can happen, right? Buyers are stuck. Indecision. I'm going to say indecision's fine, actually. We'll talk through that. Yeah. Indecisive buyers or sellers. That's a good question. As is sales, I mean, got one of those going right now. Like, hey, we just want to sell it the way it is. Well, fine. And it's going to cost you a lot of money. Usually it's usually going to cost you. Are there situations though, where the people can't do any changes? Totally right. Yeah. Financially, man, I'd love to put new carpet in it. I don't have the money. So could be time is of the essence, right? I just don't have time to do $40,000 worth of piering and foundation work and then re-sheet rock the basement. Like I got to go. We don't have time. Maybe it's divorce. Maybe it's relocation. Maybe it's death in the family. I've had one earlier this year, or I guess it was end of last year. Two daughters inherited dad's house when he passed away. And they're like, I don't even live in Kansas City. Like, can we just sell it the way it is? Yes, and it's going to be considerably below market value because it needs a lot of updates. It had deferred maintenance. I wrote that somewhere. Houses with deferred maintenance. That's a conversation for the sellers. We oftentimes overlook the things that we see every day. Anybody, let's be honest in here. I'll be the first one to raise my hand. There's areas in my house that if I was a buyer would turn me off. Right? Oh man, the master shower needs to be bleach washed. There's like a little bit of mildew where the tile meets the shower base. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I jump in there every day. It's no problem. If I walk into somebody else's house, I'm like, it's nasty. That needs to be clean. That needs to be removed. But if it's my house, it's my mildew. I'm okay with it, right? Or I've got that light bulb in the rec room in the basement that I've been meaning to change out. There's 6 can lights down there, but the one's burnt out. But When it's the seller, they overlook a lot of deferred maintenance. And then a buyer comes through and a buyer's like, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. So we'll offer you $25,000 less. And the seller's like, but wait, we also we replaced all the windows and that was $18,000. Yeah. And that was 16 years ago. Like you can't add right? So we get into those kinds of conversations. So we'll talk deferred maintenance, pricing strategy, prepping for showings, indecision, as is sales. What else? Any others? All right, let's jump in and get cranking. Who's with us online? We have people on. Oh, I can't see who's online. Okay. Do what? Okay. If somebody's online, do I do anything with that, or are they just listening in? Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. So you can be totally interactive online, which is wonderful. That's great. I'm going to roadmap you and kind of go through my process when I show up at a seller's house. And a lot of people want to put this really nice, tidy box around every single listing presentation. Unfortunately, every single listing presentation isn't the same. So some of you guys are getting ready to go to Bold. Who's going to Bold? Okay, perfect. Okay, go to Bold first step. Go to first step and then find out. Okay. Bold, when I very first started going through it, it's like 40-minute listing presentation. You're in, your trial closing before you even walk in the door. And then 40 minutes later, you're walking out, and you have all the documents signed and you're good to go. How many of you guys have ever sat down at a table with the seller to fill out documents with a pen? Has anybody actually done that? How long did it take you to just fill out the documents with them? How about you? And that's leaving the seller's disclosure, right? Like the 40-minute listing presentation where everything is nice and tidy and clean, it just doesn't exist. So when you hear people like, I ran in there and like, I just walked in and I was like, hey, it's a great decision, Tony, that you're about to make to list your house with me today. Other than price, is there anything else that we need to discuss? Okay, great. Sign here, boom, 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 and I'm out and we're taking pictures tomorrow. That like never happens. Most of the time for me, I have 2 listing appointments. I have the pre-listing appointment, and then I have the appointment where we're actually getting stuff done. Is that the way that I would love to do things every time? Nope. I'd love to show up one time and knock it out in 27 minutes and 14 seconds and leave there with a listing. However, the only time that happens is when you have somebody that just doesn't give a rip and they just want to sell the house. The sisters who inherited house from the parents is like, I'm not even in Kansas City. I just get it sold for us. Great. I'm going to need your signatures here, here, and here. And they just want it gone. Most people have some sort of attachment to the property in some way, don't they? It could be an emotional attachment. It could be a financial attachment, like the loan jack situation I shared with you. I need X amount of dollars out of this house. How do we make that happen, right? So walking through those needs-based analysis with them, and if it's not somebody that you already have a personal relationship with, isn't there some time involved in building rapport with them? Everybody should say yes. Yes. I need to build rapport. I need to earn their trust. They need to know that they're a client that matters to me, not just another transaction that I'm going to blow through really quickly. So I love the knock, knock, knock. Hello, Mr. Seller. We had an appointment at 11:30 and it's 11:30. It's a great decision you're about to make to list your house with me today. Other than price, is there any, like we learned all that scripting, didn't we? Where's my original Bold people at? Yes, we learned that, right? Like that was scripting. And what's that called? It's a trial close. Because sometimes they'll go, yeah, you were highly referred to me by my friend Glenda. Or they might go, oh, I haven't made the decision yet. I just wanted to, this is just fact finding for me. Well, what did I find out? I found out that they're not ready to close with me yet. And so I can keep trial closing. However, for me, that's just not my personality. I want to build rapport. I want to be in a long-term relationship with them because I plan to have a long-term career in this field. And I don't want it to just be a real quick one and done. And then I lose touch with them and we never talk again. And then the next time they go to sell a house, they can't even remember my name, but they see Tony's name all over the place. And so they call Tony. I love Tony, but I don't want my past clients to use Tony I want them to come back to me, right? If they don't come to me, though, I want them to use Tony because he does a great job. Yes.
Try to keep the connection with them, and it feels like they pull away.
Yeah, that happens, doesn't it? Anybody ever like fallen out of relationship with, like, I wish, Jen, that everybody in the world loved me and thought I was awesome. Like, I wish that. The reality is I'm not everybody's flavor. So I actually had people that, I mean, I went out of my way for them. When I first started, I was on a team, and I mean, I crushed it for these buyers. I was like, I'm so awesome. I mean, I'm the best agent. These guys are going to love me. They're going to be raving fans. And the rainmaker on my team, Chris, called him and he was like, hey guys, we got you closed. Like, so excited for you. Give me some feedback. How'd Tim do? And they were like, yeah, like he was fine. Like, totally forgettable. Just like he was adequate. And I was like, what? Like, they don't even know what all I did for them. Like, they just didn't really care for me. And it doesn't make me a bad person. I did great for them as a real estate agent. We just weren't a personality fit. So that's okay. They'll never use me again, I'm sure, because they're going to find now that they've been through the process before, they're going to find somebody that they gel with and that they vibe with and is their type of flavor, right? And I wish that I could retain everybody, but I just don't think that's reality. It hurts my feelings and I have to cry myself to sleep at night. And then the next day I pick myself up and start all over again. But the reality is there's somebody for everybody, but I'm not for everybody. And I have to get over that. How do I what? How do you make that lasting impression? Well, there's a myriad of ways to do that, right? One, I think we stay in touch with them. Most agents, I wish I knew the stat. You'll find it out in bold. There's a stat that says something along the lines of 87% of people who closed a real estate transaction would use that agent again. And then there's another stat that shows like that only 13% of people actually used the same agent again. And when they go and they find out, well, why didn't you use that same agent? I lost their number. I couldn't remember Kathy's name. I couldn't remember where Tim's office was because I only went to it that one time. Most of the time, they don't come back to us because we fail to maintain that relationship. So that's why we have the 36 touch program that we deploy, where we're staying in touch regularly. We're doing pop buys. We're inviting them to trunk or treat events, the bowling nights, whenever we're touching base with them. We're commenting on their things that they post on social media and showing that we're engaged with their life. We're adding value to them when they're not a client. So just touching base and, hey, I saw that tree limb fell down in your backyard. I know a great tree pruner that I can give you their number if you need them. The rainmaker that I was on, Chris Ward, some of you guys know Chris. We had a client that there was a storm, a limb fell on their trampoline and it bent the trampoline frame and like springs flew everywhere off the trampoline. There was this big limb there. And so Chris was like, hey, do you have a chainsaw? And I was like, no, but I can borrow one. So I borrowed a chainsaw. He had one. We went over there and we just started cutting up the limb and we found all the springs except for one. And then they posted on social media, like, I bet your real estate agent doesn't do this. And like, they're raving fans. And we spent like an hour cutting up a tree limb. Like, it was no big deal. And I was like, man, that was brilliant. Like, I learned so much from that guy because he just did stuff like that I would think is an inconvenience. But what it did is it created raving fans out of sellers. And then that leads to business, because when you have other people tooting your horn for you online and on social media, like, you don't even have to do the heavy lifting. Your clients are doing it for you. So that's just a few things. But well, let's get into first. We're gonna talk about some of these conversations that we'll have with sellers at different places. I'll run you through kind of how I do things in a seller's presentation. And Debbie, my business partner, snuck in the back. And so you're going to see some of her stuff on here as well. She does stuff way better than I do. So if I mess stuff up, just ask her some other time. This is our seller's guide. And this is something that we show up with. Tell me if I'm in your way or if you can see okay. If you don't have a seller's guide or a pre-listing packet, you need one because it does all the heavy lifting for you. If you don't have one, here, let me put my email address up on the board. I check it about once a month. And I respond to it about twice a year. tkrabiel@kw.com. If you need a template for one, I'll send you mine. I've got a pre-listing packet done in Canva, and I've got a pre-listing packet done in Command. And if you're not using Command yet, that's a conversation for another day in another class. But tkrabiel@kw.com, I'll send you one, and you can just add your information to it. What I like about it is if you get it into their hands before you show up to that seller's appointment, then it does heavy lifting. You don't have to sell yourself. Your pre-listing packet or your seller's guide already tells them about who you are. And so when you arrive, they kind of already know what to expect from you. They know what you're going to look like. They know what you're about. And then you can get right into business. It saves you time. And then what is really important about the seller conversation is finding out what's important to them, asking great questions. So if our pre-listing packet or our seller's guide tells them about us and why we're so awesome and how we're good, then we can focus all of our attention finding out what their need is and what their pain points are so that we can show up for them and serve them and meet a need. If you want to be a really great agent and have a really big business, find out what people's problems in real estate are and solve them. The only way we can find those out is if we ask great questions. And one question typically leads to another, and we'll role play that today so that you kind of see what some of that looks like. So when I very first sit down with them, I'll make sure that they got the seller's guide. Hey, did you get the seller's guide that I emailed to you? And we always print out a copy of it and take it with us on the appointment so that even if they already looked at it online, we've got a copy of it anyway. And then we can just real quickly blow through it. Hello, we're here to help you. This is who we are. This is what we're about. This is what kind of experience that you get from us. Puff up personnel piece about us, right? About who I am. Home sellers roadmap. We're walking them through the super skinny skeleton version of what the process looks like. Hey, the first thing that you're going to need to do is find an agent because FSBOs consistently leave 18% on the table. They consistently do. And they find out that it's a total hassle and it's a nightmare and it's a disaster. Even if you don't hire me, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, definitely find an agent. I think you found a great agent and you need to look no further because we're right here and we got you. Ha, ha, ha. Everybody laughs. Sign here. Let's move forward. I could do a trial close there, right? I could find out if they're planning on using me or not. I can ask questions about how they found out about us. How did you get my name anyway? Oh, Jordan's grandma gave me your name. Oh my gosh, I love Janine. She's awesome. Well, clearly I know a lot of wonderful people, right? So you're automatically planning on using me. Yeah, I wouldn't even think about you. If you're good for Janine, you're good for me. Great. Now I don't have to spend time selling myself anymore because they're already planning on using me, right? And I just asked a few questions. How did you find out? Where did you get my name? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work up a pricing strategy for your house so that you know what the market will bear. If I have a really cool house in Eagle Glen, are we all familiar with Eagle Glen? If I have a really cool house in Eagle Glen, I mean, Glenda, I painted with the top of the line Sherwin-Williams paint. I bought all of my furniture right down here at Furniture Deals. I've got carpet for less coming. They're putting in brand new carpet. And I think that I can get $850 for this thing. Anybody see a problem with my strategy? Nope. We're all good with it. Steve sees a problem with my strategy. Hannah sees a problem with my strategy. Will new carpet and new paint in any house in Eagle Glen command $850,000? Not right now. That's not where the market's at, right? Maybe one day in the future, houses in Eagle Glen will be going for $850. They probably will, but not today. So I want to have that conversation with them, what the market will bear. So I'm just walking them through this so that we'll decide on a pricing strategy that will work for your house based on your needs. So I'll be asking you some questions a little bit later on, finding out what the goal is. For example, is it to get the absolute top dollar out of the house? Is it to sell it as quickly as possible? Are you even going to be in town when we're trying to sell the house? So you'll see I have some questions that will help me formulate a strategy so that we know where to price it. If it's to get the absolute top dollar, plan on being on the market for a while. Plan on not selling it as is, right? We might have to do some things. Side story, Ryan Finn won a listing several years back with one of my friends who, it was before I was an agent, but my buddy Mike wanted to sell a house in Grandview, and Mike's cousin was an agent. And his cousin shows up for the listing appointment, and he says, where do you think that you want to price it at? And Mike goes, I'd love to get 300 out of this thing. And his cousin's like, not in Grandview. Like, you're not going to be able to get 300 out of this. I was thinking more like 225. And Mike was like, well, I want 300 out of it. And so they kind of like parted ways, and the cousin assumed that Mike was going to come to his senses eventually anyway. Ryan Finn shows up because Mike wanted a second opinion with somebody who wasn't family. And Ryan goes, what are you thinking on pricing strategy? Here's what Zillow says. Here's what realtor.com says. What are you thinking that you want to sell it for? And Mike goes, I'd love to get 300,000 for it. And Ryan goes, okay, if you want to get 300 for it, you need to do this, 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 and this. And then Mike went, what if I only do this, this, and this? And then Ryan goes, I feel pretty confident I could get you 260 for it. And Mike goes, okay, let's go 260. Ryan didn't go, not in Grandview. Ryan went, okay, if you want 300, you need to do these things, and then I can get you 300 probably. Totally different conversation, right? And that won him the job. So understanding what their goal is and what they want and what they desire, and we're just giving them information so that they can make an educated decision. What happened was Ryan gave him the information necessary for him to make that $300,000 decision, and he decided he didn't want 300. He was good with the 260 because he didn't want to have to do all the things. But that was a pro move, right? And so once we decide on a pricing strategy for you, we're going to talk about staging or preparing your home for showings. Anybody ever walk through the house and you're like, oh, dear Jesus, help me. We are never going to sell this rat hole. Like, there's crap everywhere. In fact, I think there's rat crap everywhere. Like, there is no way I'm going to sell this thing. And then you walk into the other house and you're like, did you have a professional stager show up right before I got here? Like, this looks like $1 million. It matters on the sellability of a house. The way people feel when they walk into a house, houses give off vibes, don't they? If you ever walked into a house and you go, this house just feels really good. And then you walk into other houses and you're like, I think they did Satan worshiping in here because this house feels like there's evil spirits all, like, some houses just put off a terrible vibe, you know? And part of that is the preparedness for hitting the sales market. So having that conversation with them is vitally important, because if they're hoarders, the first thing that I'm going to tell them to do is like, get rid of everything. Like, can you guys put one of those storage pods in the driveway and we just empty everything into the storage pod? If you're not going to use it in the next 2 weeks, let's just get it out of the house. And then we can give them reasons why. The closet is so full right now that the hang bar is like a banana shape. And if you take one shirt off the hanger, like 14 come flying out of the closet. Everybody's going to think, what about the closet? It's too small. But 100% they will, right? So if we pare that down and put an adequate amount of clothing in there, I mean, how many of those shirts are they really going to wear in the next 30 days? If they're like me, they wear the same 4 shirts over and over again, and they don't touch the other 27 in there, right? So we can pare that stuff out. So just observing your surroundings and having a conversation with them about the staging of the property. You don't have to bring in a $10,000 bill professional stager, but give them guidance and directive. And your pre-listing packet can even have helpful tips for staging in there, and we can get into that conversation with them without being offensive, right? Mm-hmm. It depends on your personality, because that could be a really delicate conversation, couldn't it? So my personality is, I usually am pretty lighthearted, and I usually kind of joke and, like, you know, try to use a little bit of comedy to, I pick on my clients a lot. So I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, are you starting a business? Like we're collecting a ton of stuff here. What things can we get out of the house that we don't need in the next 30 days? If that's not your personality, you might just ask them a very matter-of-fact question. Hey, curious, because there is a lot of things that would prevent people from seeing the walls and the condition of the house. Is there any possibility that we could pare this way down prior to showings? And just asking a matter-of-fact question. If you move, if we sell your house in the next 30 days, what are you going to do with all of your personal property? It looks like you have acquired a lot. It's just an observation, right? Are you going to, if they're going to downsize, like we're going to have to get rid of some stuff. May I ask you a question without being offensive? I would love to help trim this out because the house usually shows better, the less is more approach. Is there any way that I could help give you some guidance on what things that I'd love to see you remove from the house? And just approaching them that way. Sometimes we beat around the bush a little bit too much and we're not direct enough. And then we end up dealing with a bunch of those kind of things that makes our job nearly impossible. That if we would have just really been direct with them, they wouldn't have been offended because we're a business professional and we're approaching it from a if I take my car in and I've ran it completely out of oil and I want to change my oil and they pull the drain plug and no oil comes out of it, do you think they're going to just be like, hey, no oil in it, and like not tell me about it? They're going to come and have a conversation with me about it, aren't they? They're going to be like, I don't know if you know this, but your car was completely out of oil. Like, when was the last time you had an oil change? We recommend, 3,000 to 5,000 miles or whatever it is. They're getting any other business. They're just going to talk direct with me and give me the facts about the situation. The facts are, let's say it's a $200,000 house. If this was pared down and it showed appropriately, Mr. Seller, I think that you're probably in that 185 to 210 range. However, it's very difficult to see the condition of the house because there's a lot of personal property in here. The way that it is right now, we're probably likely only to see something in that like 220 to 230 range just because there's so many unknown variables here. So would it be worth $20,000 to $30,000 for us to clear that out? Yeah, I could get a pod for $700, right? I would rather, yeah. So all I'm doing though is I'm just giving them facts and I'm letting them make the decision. Have you guys, anybody ever got into the foot in the mouth situation yet, where you've told them what to do because you're the professional expert? Yeah, some of us have, right? Like, meet with enough clients and you will do that. You'll find yourself telling them things and then I'm like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, this is not my deal. This is their deal and I'm their tour guide. I'm giving them facts and they're making decisions. I'm giving them a range and they're choosing within those parameters. I'm not telling them to do anything. I'm not guaranteeing them anything. I'm just giving them the facts and letting them make the choice. Yeah. From staging, we're going to go into showings. This is an important conversation to have because do we want our sellers there when buyers show up to tour the house? Why not? They always overtalk. Yeah, 100% of the time. They start telling all these things about the house and the crack in the foundation that Bill was out there working on for 4 days when it was 108 degrees out. Now they're like, what crack in the foundation? Oh, foundation's bad. Was this hairline crack and it was no big deal. And the inspector would have told them it was superficial, but the seller stinking scared them off now. All they imagine is themselves out there working in 108 degree weather, trying to, rebuild the foundation. That always happens. I've had this happen too. A seller promised a buyer they would do something. I didn't know about it. It wasn't in writing anywhere. The seller forgot about it. Like, why'd you tell them you were going to do that? Like, let me do my job. You just get out. If my showing is from, let's just say noon to 1, I got a showing from noon to 1. When do I want my sellers out of the house? I don't want them out. I definitely want them out of the house at 12:30. When do I want them to leave the house? If my showing's from noon to 1. Yeah, 11:30, 11:45. And don't drive by 7 times and don't sit in your car in the driveway and don't come back early and let Scruffy out to go to the bathroom in the front yard. When do I want him to come back? My showing's from 12 to 1. When do I want him to come back? Yeah, 1:30. I usually say like 15 minutes is the minimum because sometimes people show up early if they're touring 2 or 3 houses and they see a house and they're like, oh, this is not it. Let's go on to the next one. And they show up a little bit early. I want my sellers gone because I want the buyers to experience the house from a buyer's perspective. And I don't want my sellers to get offended. I don't want them hearing the buyers saying something they hate about the house and the seller just spent 3 months making that thing happen. And so I just want them to be gone. I would love it. Sometimes I coach my sellers to this and sometimes I don't. I would love it if for the right property, they turned on all the lights in the house and they opened up all the blinds, because some buyer's agents are really crappy and they take their people into tour a house. They don't even hardly turn on half the lights. They don't open up the window coverings. The house looks dark. It looks small. And then the buyer wants to know why they've had to show them 27 houses and they didn't like any of them. Well, you didn't really show it to them. You didn't even they couldn't even see half of it. So I like if they could even leave the lights on all day. If you're going to go to work, how much extra electricity are we going to burn up in 2.5 weeks? Like it's right. Like it's not going to cost you. In fact, here, let me give you $20 now and it's on me, right? Like just turn the lights on and leave them on so that when somebody comes to look at it, the house is bright, it's airy, it's open. I can see natural daylight. It looks good. Your dirty underwear and socks from the gym this morning, could you just not leave them laying on the floor at the end of the master bed? Could you make your bed? Tidy it up a little bit. The nacho Dorito crumbs that are all over the couch, like, can we clean those up a little, right? Like showings are important. Like that's the time. And yet so many of our sellers need good direction on what a good showing looks like. They don't know. How many of us have been through at least 5 houses? You've been through at least 5 houses. Anybody been through 50 houses? Anybody been through 100 houses? The more houses you go to, doesn't your tolerance for what's a good showing change? Like there's houses that I walk into and I'm just like, oh my God. Like it smells like a gym locker in here. It feels dirty. Like I think I need to run by the gym because there's one right down the street and shower after the showing. And then you walk into others and it just feels amazing. Well, if I feel that way, my buyers feel that way. So if I'm coaching my sellers, some people, we all have different levels of hygiene, not even personal, but I'm talking about our home, our workspaces, right? Some of us have immaculate, awesome workspaces, and some of us, it looks like a tornado went through it. There's no right or wrong. And yet the statistics will show us that a house that is clean, picked up, it's airy, it's open, it smells fresh, is a lot more desirable to buyers than one that's shut up, it's dark, there's Dorito crumbs all over the couch, there's an open pizza box on the coffee table, there's dirty dishes in the sink, there's dirty, smelly socks in the hall floor. But I've shown up at showings and that's what the house looks like. And of course, my buyer is not going to want to put in an offer on it. So coaching and having the conversation with them about the expectation of showings. The actual listing itself. What does it mean to actually list a property? We're simply placing it on the multiple listing service. The multiple listing service is a service in our area that's provided by the Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors. And everybody who is part of that association has access to that property's information. And a lot of the MLSs, ours included, syndicates that information out to any real estate websites that request it. Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Remax, Keller Williams, Century 21, all of them that request access can broadcast that information. So I'm letting my clients know, once I post this, everybody will see it, not just real estate agents, homeowners, people that are shopping on their apps. They're going to have access to your home. They're going to see your address. They're going to know that it's for sale. If you haven't told the neighbors yet that you're moving, you might want to have that conversation with them so that you don't get caught up in an awkward situation. It's just a conversation that I'm having with them because we know those things because we're seeing them all the time. Our sellers may not have sold a house ever, or they haven't sold a house in 8 years, or they haven't sold a house in 27 years. And technology and the process is changing all the time. So having that conversation with them of what to expect. Somewhere in here for showings and listings, maybe I need to add a number. I want to talk to them about what the showing requests look like. So in some instances, I'm using a Supra iBox, or I may be using a combination box, or maybe they have some sort of guest access keypad that they want to use, or maybe they're going to leave the house unlocked during showing times. Whatever it is, I want to know what their expectation is, and I want them to know what their options are. I love using the iBox because I can see who accessed it and when they accessed it. But for the first time ever, we've got a listing that we went on the listing presentation and neither one of us had cell service. And I was like, oh, yeah, an iBox is totally not going to work here, because if I was here to show this house, my phone I wouldn't be able to get into the iBox. Yes. Yep. Uh-huh. Yep. I've had that happen on someone else's listing, but I'm like, oh, I told you about the iBox, but that's not going to work because I can't even unlock it at your house. So we put a combination box there. So letting them know what that process is like and how they can accept, decline, or suggest a different showing time. So whether we're yet using the text service or whether it's coming to you and then you're letting them know about showings, whatever that is, address that with them so that they have an understanding of what to expect when a showing request comes in.
Not my sellers to accept or deny.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I get one. The minute I get it, I send it over. Say, let me know if this doesn't work for you.
Perfect.
And by that time, I've already accepted it because I want them to know that we're good. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Or I'll message the agent.
I like that because it gives you more touches with your client during the process, right? And it's not always practical for all of us. So dual career agents may not be able to be responsive enough at certain times of the day. One of our clients right now, he works from home. And so he's kind of like, between 8 and 5, I really need to be working. I can't really do showings. But if I know about them far enough in advance, I can accommodate my schedule. So like a 24-hour showing notice, he can look at the time frame and decide if it's going to work for him. Like there's a lot of different options there for showings, and you can block out showing times if if there's a certain day of the week that doesn't work for them or a certain time window. But again, having the conversation with them, what are these conversations doing? They're setting the expectation. Most of the time when we fail to perform or when we underperform for a client is because they didn't understand what the expectation was. They just simply weren't well informed and they didn't know. They were expecting something different than what we were intending to deliver. It doesn't mean we did a bad job. It was just that they were expecting something different. And so if you have these conversations with them, then you're on the same page of what they can expect. We'll always let them know what kind of marketing we're doing. Don't tell them you're doing marketing that you don't ever do. So I'm not going to tell them I'm going to do a huge billboard with your house on it at 435 and I-70, because I've never done that. And I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's a good ad spend for me. But I might plaster it all over social media. I might do a paid Facebook campaign. I might do an email blast to every agent in the Kansas City area and everybody in my database. I might go to a real estate networking event and tell all the other agents about it. How many of you guys do that every Tuesday when you have a listing? Right? We do that right here. That's our team meeting when we go, hey, what listings, buyers, and open house situation that we got going on? If you have one and you post it on a Southland private agent page to let the other agents know. So whatever your marketing is, let them know about that so that they can know what to expect. And then how are we going to handle offers? If they're going to be out of town for a couple of days, do we want to compile offers and I'll get with you when you get back? Do you want me to call you while you're out of town and run you through every offer that comes in as they come in? Do you want me to call you at the end of the day every day? What happens if we don't get any offers? What if we're on the market for 4 months and don't ever get an offer on the house in Lone Jack that's $80,000 overpriced, right? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to communicate? Because I want them to know that we're still working for them. We just don't have an offer. So some agents will make like, hey, I'm going to let you know every Monday where we're at. I like the agents that are like, I'm going to touch base with you every Friday and let you know what we got going into the weekend. And then I'll follow up with you on Monday if we don't talk over the weekend. I like that approach a lot too. And then that lets them know this is what marketing we're doing for you. And then here's the results of it. And then if hey, I just wanted to call and check in with you, Glenda, still marketing as per usual. And yet we didn't get an offer in hand. Just wanted to give you an update so you knew I hadn't forgot about you. We do the same marketing over and over and over again, though, because there's always new buyers entering the market, right? So I want it to feel fresh and I want them to see it just as if it's day one on the market, because for them, it is day one on the market.
When people put on their, we're going to be picking, or we're going to be selecting a contractor, selecting a buyer, or whatever, on Sunday at 5 o'clock, but it's like Friday. Does that mean they already have a contract in place?
They might.
Are they expecting a lot of contracts?
Could be that too.
Sunday at 5.
Then they got egg on their face. Then they got to go to their client and be like, we don't have any offers. I think some agents do that. I would never do that until I already have multiple offers in hand. But it's a risk. Some people play that game. If they are really confident about the house and the pricing, Jake Keith probably does it all the time. That guy's always taking awesome listings and pricing them right and just blowing out the water. I knew it. Taking a great listing that you know the pricing strategy is right and you know is going to be a hot one, it's a risk though, right? Like that's a risk that I'm not willing to take for my clients. But if I'm going into the weekend and it's Friday night and I already have 4 offers in hand, the last thing I want to do is inconvenience my clients all weekend long. I might even call it at noon on Saturday. Again, I want their permission. But for example, if the house is listed at $250 and I already have 4 offers that are between $250 and $270, do I need 9 more? Maybe, but more than likely I don't, right? What am I holding out for? I listed it for $250. Am I holding out for the $300,000 cash offer, waiving appraisals? Like maybe, but that's pretty unrealistic, right? Now I might lose out on those 4 because they might go, well, hey, I got to buy a house. And if you're not going to accept mine, I'm going to move on. Like you ask for $250. I wrote you an offer for $260, asking for a 3% buyer agency commission, and I don't need any closing costs. Can we lock this thing up? What don't you like about my offer that's going to cause you to wait for something else? You're just hoping to get more money? Well, then I don't want to work with you. I'll take my buyers somewhere else. Like you set the price, we're going to give you that, maybe, and then some. But sometimes our sellers get really greedy because if in day one they get the offer, then they're like, oh, what? Maybe let's wait to see what the weekend brings. Well, we priced it right. That's why we got you the offer that we did. And we were good with this net proceed initially. Let's stick to that because we're probably going to lose these guys if we play that game. But asking for highest and best or all offers are due in by, I think that's a great method to use when I've seen we've got showings. We've got a showing. Today's Wednesday. We've got a showing Thursday night on a property that yesterday we got 3 offers in on. Well, what I don't want to do is I don't want to waste those people's time on Thursday. So I want them to know as quickly as possible, hey, we got 3 really good offers. We're probably going to pick one of these. My sellers aren't really going to wait till Thursday to see what you guys want to do because we already have several really good ones. So that's a professional courtesy to agents. And it's unfortunate. I wish everybody could see every house, but the reality is they might go tour it and then not even be interested in it. Meanwhile, I've got these people that really wanted it and submitted us a really good offer. Why would we not want to just work with them? We're already going to have to tell somebody, no, I'm sorry, you had a great offer. We just chose a different one. That's not a great conversation. Like that doesn't feel good. I wish I had 3 properties like this and I'd sell all 3 of them. So having those conversations up front with your seller so that they know what the expectation is as offers start coming in. Right. Yeah, because from the buyer side, you want that professional courtesy as well. I had Debbie and I were riding one time, and we had his house in Raytown that went under contract, and you have 24 hours to update that on the multiple listing service. Well, we had accepted a contract and we were already under contract on it, and I hadn't changed it. But I had an agent go look at it that night and then called and wanted to submit an offer on it. And we had already accepted one. And I was like, oh man, like I had to call him back. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Like that was a sucky conversation, wasn't it? Like, thankfully he was a pro and he was like, hey, I get it. It happens. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. We actually already accepted a contract on it. And I just hadn't updated it yet. But what I felt terrible about it was they went and looked at it after we had already accepted an offer. So I wasted that agent's time and their buyer's time. And I wouldn't want that to happen to me. So I used to kind of just not be so urgent about changing it because I had time. Now I'm like, I never want to make that call again because I didn't feel like a professional making that phone call. I felt like I didn't do my job well. And I don't want to make that call again, so I won't. But those are conversations to have with the seller so they know what the expectation is and how we're going to move forward when we're in that situation, if we're in the situation. Under contract, what's it like when we're under contract? We're going to have an inspection period more than likely, aren't we? There might even be a resolution period. I love the inspection periods where the people go look at it in the first couple of days. They send you an inspection notice and they check the box that says moving forward as is. We're good with it. I love that. It happens like 1% of the time to me, right? All the other times it's like, renegotiate. Here comes the resolution of unacceptable conditions. All they want us to do is tear off the back of the house, reframe it with a big room addition. No problem. Yeah, exactly. When we're under contract, we need to let our clients, our sellers know what to expect of that process. We're going to give the buyers reasonable access to the property during the inspection period. So they're going to suggest an inspection showing time. If there's any way possible we can make that work for them, we'll vacate the house for a few hours while they do their inspections. If it just absolutely won't work for you, we'll let them know, and we'll have to give them their second choice, though, whatever that is. Because everything is time is of the essence. I don't know if I wrote that down or not. Time is of the essence, so we can't delay the process for them. Because if we miss an inspection period, bad things can happen, right? No. Alex and I are awesome at this career. If you ever want to know what not to do, just talk to Alex and I. We know from experience. Do the opposite of what we're doing. Yeah. We have to watch those timelines, and our sellers need to be aware of the timelines. I'm not going to ask them to remember them. I'm going to do the calendar management for them, but I'm going to let them know up front what the expectation is. That way, when we get there, I can go, remember, we talked about that inspection period, and here's what's going to happen next. Well, now here we are, and they want to inspect on Tuesday, so we'll need to be out of the house from noon to 4 or whatever that time frame is. Anything else that can happen during under contract? What happens if there's a storm and a lightning bolt strikes a tree in the backyard and it falls on the overhead electrical service and rips the electrical meter off the back of the house? That happens, doesn't it? Do what? Yeah, it's on the seller to fix it because we've got to deliver the house to the buyers in the condition that it was in when it went under contract. Believe it or not all sellers realize that. They're like, sweet, we're already under contract. I don't have to fix the deck rail that got ripped off. You totally do. But that happens, right? So we let them know what that expectation is. And then any final details. Packing up your stuff. What condition do we want them to leave the house in summer when they move out? I'm picking on, did she say crusty? I thought she said crusty. I've walked into a house the day of closing. We did the final walkthrough like hours before closing, and they left crap everywhere. And I was like, the only leverage point that I had at that point was we just don't close. And my buyers were relocating in from out of town, and there was no way we were going to delay closing. And I'm like, great. So you guys, a lot of you guys know David Cook that works for Brick and Mortar. I called David. I'm like, hey, is there any way that I can pay you to bring the truck and trailer over here and we got to clean this house out? And David and I cleaned this freaking house out because I didn't do a final walkthrough earlier on in the process, and they left all this junk in the house. And then I had to pay to have David take it to the dump and put it, like, it was a disaster. Do your final walkthrough prior to the day of closing. But more importantly, if you're having a conversation with the seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what the expectation is. All of your property is out of the house. We're not leaving trash. We're not leaving trash in the trash bin. The house is broom clean and the carpet's vacuumed. We're leaving it clean for the new buyers. Now, is it going to be a professional cleaning crew coming in and Mary Maids is going to doll it all up? No, but we're not going to leave a bunch of junk everywhere either. All of your stuff has got to go. If you're not moving it, get a dumpster right now and let's toss it in the dumpster. That is just a professional conversation to have. And if we have it up front, it's not an issue. The issue is when we're 2 days before closing and the buyer's agent calls you and says, hey, we did our final walkthrough. Are they going to take the mountain of garbage that's in the garage and all the crud that's all over the backyard? And 2 days, I don't know if my sellers can get, like, they're going to have to take off work and make it happen. If we would have had that conversation up front, it's a much easier thing to handle. Tony. It's not. It's the sandwich, right? Yep. And I know that you're all good natured and have a wonderful heart. And if you're in that situation, you'll be like, you know what? I'm going to have commission coming in. I'll just get a dumpster and I'll take care of that because I've done that before too. And then guess what? When they pulled the dumpster off, they tracked through the yard and then the buyers were pissed because the yard was torn up. And guess who had to fix the yard now? Me. And I thought I was doing something good for them. And instead they were mad about it. So no good deed goes unpunished, right? Have the conversation with your seller. Have the conversation with your seller. And then closing. Final details at closing. Where do they put the garage door openers? Where do they put all the extra keys? Where do they put the extra? Yeah, the kitchen drawer, leave them on the island. Wherever you want to, make sure that they know what the expectation is. Anybody ever got to closing and you signed off on all the paperwork and your closer's like, where's my duffel bag full of cash? Where's my money at? Well, you don't get it right now. Like the buyers haven't signed yet, then they're going to sign. And then the lender has to wire, like you probably won't see it till tomorrow. And they're like, oh, what? Like I just lost it all at the boats last night. I owe Guido right now. I got to take him cash. They need money right now. The expectation is once the buyers sign, within 24 to 48 hours, the money will be wired into your bank account. Some people's financial practices, if you wire $187,000 into their checking account, the bank is going to hold it for like a week because the bank's like, this person's never had a wire transfer that big. We better hang on to it and make sure it's legit. So depending on their financial institution, some banks have a practice of holding it for 7 to 10 days. So make sure that they know what that expectation is up front, especially if they're using those proceeds to purchase another house. Those things matter. Okay, it is 10:59. Bathroom break, snack break, check email break, look at voicemails. Take 5? Is 5 enough? Tammy, you call it. How many minutes? Okay, take 5 to 7. Tammy said no longer than 7.
House in the basement. We walked downstairs and the basement walls were painted black and there was a big S cuss word written on the wall.
Uh-huh. Awesome.
Yeah, no. We walked out. That was the one thing that was like turned off to me.
Yeah. And how easy would that have been to remedy?
Easy.
Like just paint over it, right? Like not even a problem at all. Would have been a done deal, but it cost a property.
And my seller had their whole house cleaned out, but they totally forgot their shop, the little shed and back. And it was overflowed. And it was family on top of that. And so I got mad. I called my mom. My mom called my aunts, and we all 4 went over there. Took us a half day, and I got a lawnmower out of it.
Hey, free lawnmower. She got to do more work. Now she's got a new lawnmower to mow with. a doubt. Mm-hmm. I gotta do a offer comparison for Anya. We do have 3.
I was trying to.
Oh,
Oh.
how about if I send them to you real quick? The Excel form. The command comparison is sucky. It's terrible. Hmm? Okay. Thanks. Thank you. What? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. Offers at jackjack.com.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How you doing? You had this for breakfast? Yeah. This is brunch. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to pass out up here at the front of the room, you know?
That's
Amy, you doing all right? Good. Oh, sick. Congratulations. I love having closings in the morning. Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Good job. Good job. Did a car dealer buy it? Oh, you know what? I think I heard that actually. I think I heard that they were going to expand. That's cool. Very cool.
This is the
One on Main Street. What is
they're
it?
very
Bark at the moon or bays at the moon? Bays at the moon. We used to take Henry, I used to have a miniature golden doodle, and he would go to bays at the moon, and he, yeah, that's right. I would like go to pick him up, and he'd be like behind the counter up front, and they were like, he's so good with people. They let him like work up there with them behind the front desk and everything, and so he loved going. He'd get to visit the other dogs when they came in, and I'm like, well,
Like you're talking about, they actually went over to the coaching center. They're running it.
okay.
Because the Lily's place, they bought them out.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Anyway,
I don't know that I knew that.
and then the master bedroom. Six. And it
Okay, are we all back in action? I think so. All right. Did everybody get a snack or a drink or anything or whatever you needed? I needed something so that I didn't fall apart on you. So this little roadmap is, again, it's very vague. It's just this kind of a skeleton framework. However, it just gives me kind of a guideline so that I don't start becoming entrepreneurial and shooting from the hip and miss a step. So that's even like, it's okay to have a checklist when you're going through some of those seller conversations to make sure that you catch everything. The times that I've had like the worst transaction disasters is whenever I haven't followed a process and I've just sort of like winged it. And I can tell you a terrible horror story about one time that I was winging it and didn't bring a buyer in for a buyer consultation. And I didn't check a bunch of the boxes off of my checklist. And it was almost a massive disaster. There was a bunch of properties stacked up together. We actually pulled it off, but it was by sheer luck. It had nothing to do with my skill set or professionalism. It should have all fallen apart. It was just by sheer luck that it worked out, but it would have been a massive disaster because if I would have gone through my process, I would have known about those things before we got to them. So this, again, we send to them before we meet with them. This is kind of, this is initial meeting number one. And we discussed in depth all of those things. This takes about 2 minutes to go through with a client, right? I'm just giving them the overview. These are the things that you can expect that we'll be talking about if you choose to work with me. And I don't know why you wouldn't, because I'm just so charming and awesome and lovely to work with. 10 steps to selling a home. If you look at that, it's all of those items that we just roadmapped through. Now what it's going to do is it's going to go in depth and just talk to them more details about how we're pricing it, what determines the price, how to prepare it, how to stage it, some tips and tricks, so that they can look at this after I leave. Hopefully they've already looked at it before I've arrived, but a lot of people don't. Preparing checklists, and do we have plenty of Keller Williams checklists that we can give them? Yes. If you ever find yourself creating some sort of document or checklist or process, stop. Don't waste any more time and just holler at somebody at the office and go, here's what I'm trying to create. Who has that? Because I promise you it's already been created. So if you find yourself reinventing the wheel, remember the wheel already exists and you just need to make it your own. You just need to put your name on the wheel that's already rolling. So if you need a checklist of what to do outside or interior, or you want a final walkthrough checklist, or you want a finance questions to ask checklist, like they're out there, they exist, and you can just put your branding and your logo on it, your name on it, and call it good. The finding a buyer section goes into our marketing strategy and what we're going to be doing to attract a buyer for their property, especially if you have a really unique property. If it's a property on acreage, does it the one in Lone Jack? It's an equestrian dream. We thought that we would have all these people that have horses looking for acreage that would jump all over it, and I grossly missed that one because nobody gives a rip. But I thought that was going to be our ideal buyer, and apparently it isn't. Again, walking them through this is, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here because this is just going in depth on that skeleton roadmap. If you have 10 minutes, make all the beds, put all clutter in laundry baskets, empty all garbage cans, take out the trash, wipe down countertops. Again, the more times they can see that Tony's information sandwich, right? We tell them what we're going to tell them. We tell them how the process is going to go. Then we tell them, and then we tell them what we just told them, right? So we're letting them know when we get to showings, if the showing's at noon, I'd really like you guys out of the house by 11:45. Give yourself a minimum of a 15-minute leeway there. And then when the first showing comes in, remember, here's what I'd really like for you guys to do. Be gone about 15 minutes minimum before that first showing time. Let's go ahead and turn on all the lights, open up the window covering so it feels bright and fresh in there. If you just made salmon patties for dinner, open up the window, open up the slider, like let's air the house out, those things. If they have, you guys joke about it, but that stuff happens, doesn't it? I have walked into a house and I was like, what in the world did they have for dinner? And they made some sort of like veal curry thing. And I'm like, I'm going to throw up. Like, you didn't think that there might be a showing tonight? Like, and it's all stuff that when you're hungry and you're ready for dinner, smells amazing, right? But after you just ate, now you're going in and out of this person's house and that person's house, and everybody's house smells different. Okay. Candle burning. Some people put vanilla in a bowl and put it in the oven. Bake cookies before an open house, all that kind of stuff, right? If you have an hour before, most clients you'll be able to find out in this conversation what they're going to be open to doing. And they usually want to help you sell their house for them. Offers and negotiating, it's pretty clean. Like there's not, it's basic stuff for us, but remember the clients that we're talking to, they don't do this every day. They're not coming to team meeting every Tuesday. They're not going to training classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They're not doing these things. Come to find out, most agents aren't doing these things. I'll show you guys something really funny. One of the offers that we got on this property yesterday, I got a call from the agent. She was like, hey, are your people willing to pay a buyer agency commission? Seller conversation, right? Are we willing to compensate a buyer's agent? What if they said, no, I really don't want to? Great, that's perfect. Well, when they write it into their offer, we'll put a net proceed sheet together for you and we'll have the conversation again, right? So I'm like, yeah, we have had that conversation with them. We're definitely open to it. Please include it in your offer and we'll consider all the factors of the offer. And she goes, well, do you guys have a broker cooperative compensation agreement? Because that's a KCRAR form that's obsolete. We don't use it anymore. But if we're working with other brokerages outside of our MLS, they may not see when we post it on the MLS, they may not see that we have a 3% buyer agency fee. So she sends me this broker cooperative compensation agreement. I'm like, oh, well, maybe you're not in our MLS or maybe you're not part of our region, but that we have actually have a buyer agency commission line on the sales contract now. So just put it on that. I'm happy to send it to you. And she goes, oh, no, I am. I'm just out of what she said, where she was out of. And I was like, well, that was part of the NAR lawsuit and on the 17th, that's what went into effect. And she was like, oh, well, this is my first offer that I will be submitting since then. I just didn't know that was, I end up taking a screenshot of the contract. I highlight the line for her. I tell her how to write it up. Basically, I've got a buyer submitting an offer on my listing and I'm telling her how to write up the offer. And she actually took my advice and she wrote us a really good offer. I think she took my advice and she's going to win the contract. My point being though, the last person you want to have to go to for, I don't know how to write this offer, is the listing agent. But if you're not going to any of the classes and not going to the education, you don't even know what conversations to have. So these conversations that we're having here, wildly helpful. Some client testimonials. If you don't have any yet, use our office. Our office has a lot of wonderful client testimonials. Just ask Alex Bearden. All of his people are raving fans. He has a lot of repeat clients. He can share some of his testimonials with you, and you can just put them up there that there are people that have worked with our office before. Oh, our office has X amount of repeat buyers and sellers. Yeah. It's Southland Partners. Like, that's what we do. Yeah, I know it is, isn't it? If you don't have any statistics, use the office statistics. If you're a solo agent, you have nothing going on, use what the office has going on because you're a part of Southland Partners. You're a part of this family. You're a part of this team. So whatever our average sale price is for the office, that's your average sale price. Hey, if I don't have all of the answers, I guarantee you Hannah knows the answer because she sees hundreds of transactions where I'm seeing a few transactions at a time. She's seeing everybody's. So if she's got an idea, she's probably seen somebody do it before. She can give you some stats. I'll put Hannah's email up here and her personal cell phone. That way you can just call her 24/7. She'll shout out some numbers for you. Hannah's like, turn this guy's microphone off. Some resources, people that they might need to call to get the house ready to go. Are we going to sell it as is, or are we going to take care of the toilet that like you almost flip over when you set on it because it's loose and it's not anchored and the kitchen sink faucet doesn't shut all the way off. It drips water constantly. Are we going to recommend some plumbing contractors that could come out and take care of that for them? Or are we just going to try to sell it as is? Would we let them know that it'll probably show better and we'll be able to get you a better buyer if we take care of some of those little honeydew items? You know what? The first thing that I think of when I see a bunch of items that are deferred maintenance, if these are the things that I can see, what else are they neglecting? What else isn't getting taken care of, right? So being able to share some of those things with our sellers so they can get things ready to go. They don't have to do everything. They can outsource it. Yes, maybe they don't have the money to do it. And well, then they're going to pay for it one way or another. We're either going to have to discount the price of the home, or they're going to have to pay it out of pocket up front. Or sometimes, depending on the situation, you can get the contractor to do the work, send their invoice to the title company, and the title company will deduct it out of the proceeds and pay the contractor's bill directly. Wonderful when that happens, but it has to be a real careful situation because a lot of contractors don't want to go do work on a house and then us be like, oh, well, it didn't sell. Well, now the seller's stuck trying to figure out how to pay the bill for it. Like, so those are some precarious situations. So just watch that. However, for example, where it's really nice is there's something that needs to be done. We agree to it in the resolution of unacceptable conditions. Now let's track forward. Don't send the contractor out there yet, but we're agreeing to have it done prior to closing. Wait until you're through the appraisal period. Appraisal is good. And then the buyer's lender sends out the we're cleared to close. Now send the contractor out there because we don't have any appraisal issues. We've already got the cleared to close. We know that we're going to hit the closing table. Is there still that 1% chance where the buyer just doesn't show up to closing? That's happened before. Anybody in this room have that happen? It does happen where like you're literally at the closing, like you're waiting on your client and you're like, where are you? And they ghost you and they just don't show up to closing. I've seen that happen here at Kaufelt before. They're like, we don't know what happened. The buyer just didn't show up. Well, now I've got a contractor to pay. That usually doesn't happen, but it can happen though, is my point. So make sure that we're having the conversation with the seller so that we can manage those expectations. Notes so that they can take notes or so that I can write them notes as we're chatting, and then our final information closing, and that's that. This helps me so much to remember where I'm at in the process and to remember what conversations to have with the sellers. Okay, so based on that information, anything else we want to add to this list or anything that you guys want to hit first that might have sparked? Okay, then let's go right into the seller conversation of functional obsolescence. So we're sitting down, usually at the kitchen table. Are you guys still doing that? Are we sitting down at the kitchen table for a listing presentation? If you're not, where are you meeting with them at? Oh, the bar area? Yeah, if they've got a bar, or, yeah, that's fine. The island. Yeah. If sometimes maybe you're meeting offsite, if it's like an investor-owned property and there's tenants in the house, maybe you're not meeting at the house, you're meeting at the office. It's really best to meet at the house. I joke around about the bold listing presentation a lot, but I use a lot of it. Hey, thanks so much for having us over today. May we sit down at the kitchen table to discuss? There's been a couple times where we've sat in the living room and kind of put some stuff out on the coffee table. I've done that before. Point is, we're in the house, we're in their environment so that we can look and see what's going on, especially if we're doing one of my normal ones where it's usually a 2-trip visit. Visit 1 is letting them know all their options and all their facts, and going through this without signing documents is usually an hour to an hour and a half, especially if it's somebody that I haven't met before, because I also have to get to know them a little bit, let them get to know me and establish some rapport. So I'm not usually a hard closer on the first appointment. I let them know what's going to happen next. I assume the close. That's a closing, right? Where I start talking about, hey, the next time we meet, Glenda, thanks so much for having me out tonight. A gorgeous home. Or, hey, thanks for having me out. Tim, this place is a total rat's nest, but I still think we can get it sold for you. Whatever the scenario is, the next time we get together, here's what we're going to do. I'm leaving you with this seller's disclosure for you to go ahead and start familiarizing yourself. And I'm assuming the close. I'm assuming they're going to use me until they tell me I've definitely hired Tony Darty because I want to party with the Darty. Until they tell me that they've hired that guy, I'm going to assume they're working with me. So I go through the process in meeting 1 with them. And I find out what the goals are by asking questions and going through this, which we're getting ready to get into. What I want to know is, if you're meeting with somebody else, when are you meeting with them? Otherwise, let's set our next appointment. So I'm going to leave them with my stuff, and then I'm going to come back for my close appointment. My close appointment is I'm going to pick up the seller's disclosure that's filled out by you. And if you have any questions about it, I'll get those questions answered at that time. I'll grab a key from you for the lockbox, and I'll bring my sign. We'll get ready to go, and we'll schedule photography at that time. Unless you're ready then I'll need to go ahead and get the photographer on board beforehand. So my second meeting with them is we're moving forward. It's a done deal. I'm not going to have a second meeting with them if I don't feel like we secured it on the first one. I'm gonna hold them to, when we meet again, this is what we're doing. Especially if I'm driving to Orick, Missouri. I'm going there and we're gonna go live with this thing, and we're taking pictures, and it's going on the market right now. I'm not driving to Orick 4 times so that you guys can interview me 4 different times. Yeah. Typically, I would like to get that on the first meeting, but I don't always. At the first meeting, it's this is usually in a notebook. It's in a 3-ring binder. I maybe even have one in my office. It's in a 3-ring binder, and that's in the front of it. Behind it is tabbed the exclusive right to sell, and then behind that is whatever disclosures are pertinent to that property. A seller's disclosure, a lead-based paint, a septic addendum, cold weather inspection waiver, whatever. I have it punched in there, and that way we can kind of go through it, or I can leave it with them, and I'll just tell them to familiarize themselves with those documents. The exclusive right to sell, if we're ready to go, I'll have them sign it right then, because what I try to do is I try to do a coming soon on everything. So I'll try to get them to go through, hey, let's go through the exclusive right to sell, and then I'll get out of your hair. I know you guys are sick of looking at my face, and I'll leave these documents for you to familiarize yourself. That way, when I come back next time, you'll have the majority of them filled out, and I can help you with the items that you didn't get knocked out or any questions that you had. When we fill out the exclusive right to sell, then I go ahead and get permission to do a coming soon, because I want to start advertising it right away. And then they're pretty much locked in. Like, we're locked into a business relationship. If not, I'll let them know, hey, I can email you the exclusive right to sell, and you can just sign it via dot loop. I'll have that over to you tomorrow or the next day. Don't do what I did one time and say, I'll have that in your inbox in the morning. And don't look at me that way. I didn't have it in their inbox the next morning. Instead, I had Bold, and I was scrambling to wrap up my Bold homework. And I got a text message in Bold that apparently I'm too busy and couldn't get that over, and he decided to go with another agent. No big deal. It was only a $14,000 commission check that I totally blew, because he would have used me if I would have had that in the inbox. I learned a lot of hard lessons in this business, you guys. I learned a lot of hard lessons. All you got to do is let them know when you're going to send it to them, and then send it to them. Yeah. That's true. And I know a lot of things not to do. Okay. So in these seller conversations, these I just wanted to get into. Functional obsolescence is a thing. We've already talked about a few of them. Can they impact the sales price of the house? Yes. Might we want to mention those to the clients up front before we get into the sales process? Yes. We want them to be aware of it. It's a gorgeous house. I'm going to give you some strengths and weaknesses. I think the strengths are, you've got it decorated to the hilt. It looks like you brought a professional stager to come in here and set this up. I think probably we're going to have some weaknesses. The single car detached garage with the broken garage door, that's probably going to be a weakness we're going to have to figure out how to overcome. The brick wing wall, the brick is kind of decaying, and like some of the bricks have fallen off. It looks so sharp on the inside. We may need to address that so that it doesn't look in disrepair. The master bedroom, it's got a toilet and one tiny little vanity. Obviously, we can't reconstruct the house. However, a lot of buyers are looking for, more than that. So that could be an Achilles for us. And most of the time, they're doing what you guys are doing. They're like, yeah, we know. but we're having the conversation about it so that it's the Tony sandwich, right? We're telling them about it now. We're going to remind them about it, and then we're going to tell them what we told them. So that way they hear it from us throughout the duration of the process, not to keep banging on all the negative stuff, but sellers will sometimes think that their house is worth a mint and buyers think that it's not, right? So we want to make sure that we're having that conversation about the things that are functionally obsolete with the house, because that will impact the saleability of the house. Tony's got a great home in Lee Summit. Steve gave some great feedback. It could be because the master bedroom, it doesn't have a shower in there. Like that could be a deal breaker for some people, right? Yeah. How do you feel about it? That's a question you could ask, right? You could even start this with a question. Hey, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term functional obsolescence. It's a term that we use in the real estate world to describe a house feature. It's functional, but it's not really the common practice today. Can you think of any of those items on your house that might cause us problems for saleability? Oh my gosh, yes. The closets in this house are terribly small. Wonderful. That is a thing. So here's how we're going to overcome that. We're going to take all of the stuff out of the closet. We're going to clean them really good. If the hanger bar is bent in the shape of a banana, we're going to put a new bar in there. And then let's only put the clothing in there that we're going to wear in the next month, right? What if they mention, I don't know, what if they mention the master bathroom? Well, yeah, that is one of them. Unfortunately, we're not going to renovate the house. We could. Would you guys be interested in renovating the house, right? Maybe they are. Maybe there's a perfect spot. Maybe they can move the laundry facility that's down in the dingy, scary rock basement, and there's this perfect closet in the hallway, right? Some of those older homes, we toured a house not too long ago in that like Waldo-y Brookside area. The laundry was down in the basement. The basement, like the head clearance was like 6'2". And then when you get to the bottom of the stairs, it like goes like this. So I would like crack my forehead on it every time. And they're like real narrow, super steep steps. And there's like shelving on the side. And I'm supposed to go up and down that with my laundry basket. Like functional, but not awesome, right? So could we move the laundry upstairs? Is that an option? That could really impact the saleability of the house. So having those, asking the questions is probably a great way to get them engaged with that process, informing them and educating them, and then having them jump into the process. I think so. Makes it feel bigger, right? Mm-hmm. Lighting makes a huge difference. If people have old light bulbs or old fixtures that are like, remember when the thing was like the alabaster lens? Well, alabaster makes everything look like dark and yellow. Well, that's great if you're the Cheesecake Factory at 7 o'clock at night, right? And they dim the lights through their alabaster fixtures. It's not great when I'm trying to get ready in the morning and I can't tell if my shirt's green or navy blue. Big difference. So again, walking through what is their paint tolerance? What are they willing to do? Listing commission. Everything's negotiable in real estate, yes? How do we approach that conversation? Is anybody struggle to have that conversation? I'm the only one. Steve and I, we're the only ones that struggle to have that conversation. Which is what? 1% to Uncle Sammy boy. Yep. Some people struggle with the listing commission, and usually it's because they don't know their value proposition. And there's nothing wrong with that. We'll help you to identify what your value proposition is. First off, the fact that you're sitting at their kitchen table or in their living room, you deserve to get paid for that house. You deserve to get paid for it. You're going to work your butt off. You may not be out there with your gloves and shovel digging, but you're going to be going through a lot of emotional work. You're going to be a counselor. You're going to be a tour guide. You're going to be a school teacher. Like, you're going to be answering your phone. You're going to be giving of your time. Like, you are worth every penny that you earn on that. Some people, their commission is negotiable. Some agents, it's non-negotiable. There's no right or wrong way. It's your business. It's however you want to roll through that. Anybody want to role play a listing commission conversation with me? Nope, they don't. Okay, Hannah. Hannah, you're the homeowner. You're the seller, and I'm just going to run through the exclusive right to sell form with you. And there's actually a paragraph on the exclusive right to sell form that talks about commission, right? And it'll show what the listing agent brokerage commission is. And Hannah, if you hire me, and I don't know why you wouldn't, because I mean, I'm really awesome and I'm fun to be around, and I'm going to crush it for you in selling your house. My fee is it's 3% of the gross sale price. So that enables me, one, to get you the most money possible, because the more I sell your house for, the more money I make, right? And in this case, because you're just so awesome, I'm going to waive my admin fee. So the only thing that you'll pay is 3% of gross sale price, and that will come out of your net proceeds. You don't owe me anything up front. We take care of all of the marketing expense and photography, and then that'll just come out of your net proceeds, which we'll work up a net proceeds sheet here in just a little bit, because I'm going to find out how much you owe on the house. And really what's important is what actually goes in your pocket. Sound good?
Well,
Valid question, right? Oftentimes people even say like, there's another agent or there's another brokerage that will, do it for 2%. I can appreciate you asking that, Hannah. No, because our team works for 3%. And here's what we're going to do. We have a track record of netting our people more money than other brokerages do. I know there's a lot of discount brokerages that you can choose from out there. However, I'm going to show you a couple of different net proceeds workouts. If you need to net more, we can walk through some things that we could do that could possibly get us more money for your house. 3% is what we're going to work through. You're going to see real quick how well we earn it. Might she push back again? Yep. Could I have discounted and said, oh yeah, I think we could probably make that work for 2? Are there any situations that I might want to take the 2%? What if the house is, I think it's a little bit in disrepair. It's in, it's off of Appleton in Raytown, and specific address because I had one of those. And it's in disrepair, and I think I'm going to sell it for $115,000 if I'm lucky. Am I going to take that listing at 2%? How much am I going to get paid if it's $115,000 sale price at 2%? Not a lot. Somebody said, well, 3% of 100,000 is how much? 3,000. If I do 2%, what is it? After taxes and brokerage fees, she's like, you're going to make $50. And how much work am I going to put into it, right? I had that house on Appleton and Raytown. I worked my butt off for it for 2.5% commission. It's the same amount of work. It's more than usually, because we usually, if the house is in disrepair, am I going to have inspection items to negotiate through? 100%. Like, it's all these things, right? But what if Hannah's house is a $1.3 million listing in Loch Lloyd that looks like $1 million, and there's going to be 47 people scrambling to try to buy it? Then I might take a 2% listing. Every scenario is different, right? So I have to evaluate what's my time worth, what's it going to take for me to do my job, and am I willing to? There's people that I'll take their listing for less than 3%. It just depends on the parameters. In this case, I'm going to say it's a very typical or average sale price house in here. And we work for 3%, Hannah. However, if you're not impressed with us before we get this thing under contract, we're just going to tear this up and you can hire whoever you want. What happens though is you usually get what you pay for in this industry. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I can share a lot of things, lessons that I've learned in this industry that I'm still seeing agents are learning. I don't want you to learn the hard way and lose more net proceeds because you hired somebody with a less commission percentage. My commission percentage may be a little higher than somebody else's. I'm going to net you more, and I'll show you how. And then I got to show them how, right? How am I going to net them more? Or what marketing are the other people going to do? Are they going to do an open house? Are they going to door knock the neighbors? Are they going to call the surrounding properties? These rural listings that we take out there, who usually wants them? The neighboring property, because they can pick up 50 more acres. Call the neighbors that, right? So are the other agents, do they even know to do that? I get so hung up in, I think that everybody does the exact same thing. They don't. Most agents out there don't even know what to do. That's why our office is crushing it, because we're talking about the things to do. Hannah, based on that information, would you move forward with me today at 3%? Or are you still going to push back and give me a hard time? Okay, perfect. And I would probably, if I was meeting with Hannah, I would probably handle her just like that, because she was like a hard press on me. So I might hard press back. Like, hey, I can tell that you really love what I'm about here today. I think that you want to do the right thing for you and your family. You want to hire me at 3% because you want us to put as much money as possible in your pocket, don't you? Or do you want to push back on me again, and I'm going to have to push back on you again? And we're going to joke around, and then she's going to hire me for 3%, right?
Well, I understand why you want 2% right now. If possible, we could negotiate that in the contract and have the.
You could do that. I wouldn't, but you could. Yeah, because what's going to happen is no matter what, you're coming back to that, aren't you? I might even use one of the commission rebuttals of like, let me put it this way, Hannah. Would you rather hire me and pay me 2% of $250,000, or would you rather pay me 3% of $300,000? Everybody's doing the math. I don't know. I'd rather pay you more, but me make more. What if we both make more, right? What happens is if I discount my commission, I'm actually handcuffing my team. We're not able to do our full service for you. And I don't want to give you less than full service. In fact, I won't. I would prefer that we not work together than give you less than a red carpet experience.
With the photos and with the ad paper and with the open house. Like,
Sure.
2%.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that, right? You can do the a la carte menu item. You can hire us for 2% and we do this. You can hire us at 3% and do this. You can hire me at 10% and I'll come and I'll help you pack. I joke about it, but I know, right? There are people out there that would pay that. There are people that be like, what do you mean? I mean, I'll show up in my grubbies and have packing tape and cardboard boxes. And if you've got that $1.6 million listing in Lock Lloyd and you're going to pay me a 10% commission, I'll move all of your stuff, right? I'll do that for $160,000, 10% of a $1.6 million listing, right? So I'm having that seller conversation because what's the pain point? I could even ask the question, Hannah, based on what we've talked about so far, what are you seeing that causes you to not want to pay us our 3% fee? Oh, I just was hoping to put more money in my pocket. I promise you, by paying the 3%, you will put more money in your pocket, because if you pay me half of my money, I'm going to do half the job for you. All right. And so is all the other agents that say they'll do it for 2%. They're just not going to give you full service because there's not enough funds. How much marketing can I do if my marketing budget gets cut? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to set you up for the very best success. Right? However you want to package it, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. I love the bold one where it's the discounted commission one. Hannah, I can appreciate you asking for 2%, but let me run this scenario by you. If right now in this meeting, I give up a third of our compensation, how much quicker will I be to give up your money when we get an offer coming in that we're negotiating? I think what you really want to do, if you want to hire a bulldog like me that I fight and defend my money, I'm going to fight and defend your money. And that's why we're going to negotiate the best sale price for you guys. Right? That, like, there's a bunch of different rebuttals or a bunch of different, and I think I won her over. She's so disinterested now. I think she's already just planning on hiring me. She's not even paying attention anymore. She's moved on. She's like, yeah, you got the job. We're good. Most people are like that. They push back, but what happens is we freak out and then we want to just give up commission. But if you push back, they usually are like, okay, it wasn't that they rejected anything. They just had a question that needed answered. Will you do this for 2%? Nope. Okay, just had to ask. Ha, ha, ha. Like that happens all the time. Anybody, like I do it sometimes. I'll go golfing like with my dad, and my dad will make a comment about like the green fee. Like, can you believe it's $100? And I'll be like, you guys don't have like the father and son 50% off discount, do you? You know how many times we've gotten a discount doing that? They'll be like, well, he's not a senior, is he? Like, heck yeah, he is. Look at him. He's an old man. And they'll give him 25 bucks off. Like stuff. I mean, if you just ask, right? So people do that to us, but oftentimes we just like, we cower and then we just give up our dollars.
I assume they'll take a 30% pay cut to their job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then that's pretty quick.
100%, right? Listing commission, any other other questions or anything that we're hitting there that we want to role play? Yeah.
Talking on that listing commissions, I have to do this with this that I'm closing this afternoon, is on the buyer side. I actually kind of put the listing agent in a little bit of a spot because she never had that conversation of buyer's compensation. So it was about a 15-minute conversation with her about understanding the fact that everybody's got to get paid at some point. And if they're not willing to do it, then the home's not going to sell.
Sure.
You know,
Hannah, this next section on the exclusive right to sell talks about would be, how do I talk? Wait, what language do you guys all speak? I'll just speak your language. Would we be willing to compensate a buyer's brokerage if they so request it? Most people are going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? I don't understand. Well, we used to take like a 6% listing and then we would share that. It's called a broker reciprocity agreement. We would share that 6%. Our brokerage would get 3%. The buyers would get 3%. We had some changes in the industry. I don't even like, I hate to even bring it up because a lot of people that I've been meeting with, they don't even know about it. Like I bring it up and it's like the first they've heard of it. And they're like, oh, okay. What do we do? So I hate to even mention it. Some practices used to be, we would charge you a 6% listing fee and we would split that with the buyers. Now we're just talking about this 3%. So really, I've already discounted with you, Hannah. However, they're going to be presenting offers to us and most buyers will probably be asking for a brokerage compensation in that offer. What we're going to do is we're just going to have to really look at that offer and make sure that the offer makes sense. Again, the sticker, if they say that they're going to offer you $350 for the house, great number. The number that I care about is your net. I want to see what's actually going into Hannah's bank account when we close this thing out. If their offer is structured correctly, would you be open to that? Possibly. Great. Then we're going to check this box right here that says that we might possibly be. Even if she says, yeah, heck no, I'm not doing that. Okay. Well, just be prepared. Use the Tony sandwich again. Just be prepared that when offers come in, more than likely they're going to have a brokerage compensation on there. So again, I'll just be running the numbers and we're looking at the net proceeds to see how much actually goes into your pocket. That's what we care about. Can you change the amount of the buyer's commission based on what the offer is? Can she? Sure, we can counter offer, right? We should send them back a counter offer. She can't change the buyer's commission, but we can counter offer. Everything's negotiable, right? So she says, can I change based on their offer? Yes, because we need her to net more money. So I can call that buyer's agent and go, hey, here's what we need. We need your net offer to be this dollar amount. Will you take $3,000 off of your buyer's agent commission or pull that from the buyer because this is what we need the net offer to be? We don't really care how you do it, but we don't think that we could get appraised for $360, right? Because they could just increase the sale price, right? But at some point, we're going to run into an appraisal issue possibly. So we would like to see you get some of that compensation from your buyer. That's in their buyer agency agreement. So They can always take less.
But I mean, you're only gonna offer 50% on your offer, right? So your agency is gonna get 50%, you can ask your buyer for that. Or you can take that too, okay?
As a buyer's agent, would any of you guys ever consider doing that? If a listing agent came back and said, listen, I don't think we can take a higher sale price because I feel like we're going to run into an appraisal issue, would you scrub $2,500 off of your commission? I think that puts this deal together.
Yes.
Depends on the situation.
Right?
I would.
You wouldn't, or you would. You would. I have a buyer situation that if I had to go back and do it all over again, I stuck to my guns on it. And I think if I had to go back and do it all over again, I'd have scrubbed $4,000 off of my commission to put a deal together. You know what deal I'm talking about? Andrea. It was a $620,000 offer. That's an $18,000 commission. We've been hunting for a house for over a year, and they have a $375,000 listing once we find them a house to move into. We got within $5,000 and we were at an impasse, and they were like, if you can get to this number, we got a deal. And I'm like, hey, you only got to come up $5,000 more dollars, and we got this thing. It was a perfect property for him. And she's like, that's my top dollar. If I had to do that all over again, I'd go back and I'd scrub $5,000 off of my commission and put that deal together in a heartbeat. Because then I pick up a $375,000 listing, and now I'm like, I can't even count the amount of houses we've looked at and how much time I've spent with them. And I could have been done and at least picked up 13,000 on this buy, and then, maybe 10,000, 12,000 on the sell. And right now we're back at square one all over again. If I had that to do all over again, I would take less on my buyer's agent's commission. It could. And that's the slippery slope that we run into on here. And we could get to that point where all of a sudden we're just chasing commissions down. And I felt like I did the right thing for the industry. I stuck to my guns on my commission, and they didn't even ask me to lower my commission. But looking at it now, I'm like, the other side wouldn't have even known what my commission agreement with my buyer was, because that's between me and them on my buyer agency agreement. I could have just put in there, I'm asking for 10,000 in commission, but my buyer's paying me $5,000, right? And they wouldn't have even known the difference. And I'm kicking myself now because they're great, and that would have been a great property for them. And honestly, I just want them off of my pipeline now. I've been spending so much time with them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they've put me on an emotional roller coaster so many times, but I'm not going to give them up now because I'm this far in with them, right? And I'm like, I should have just made that adjustment and put that deal together. But, oh well. 100%. I sure would have. Yep. Yeah. Because of that. See, that's why you have to look at it long-term as a business. Because let's say, what's the Nordstrom guy's name? Bruce Nordstrom? You bought all of this clothing and you're going to sell it for a certain price. Well, the season's over and you didn't sell all of it. What are you going to do? You're going to discount it, because I would rather sell it and get it out the door than have 47 of these shirts that didn't sell, right? Or wait till next year. And they've created a spinoff business now. They've got Rack, and they do that. Now they have a whole new department store that they sell these, the things that didn't sell at a discounted rate. And then they sell all of, we have to think entrepreneurial as business owners, and not, this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is. Would I take 2%? I might. Is her house an amazing house that's going to sell in 4 days? And I probably don't even need to take pro pics. I can probably just shoot this thing real quick with my phone, because there's going to be 14 people lined up to buy it. Would I take 2%? I might. If I don't have to pay for photography and I have no marketing and all I got to do is put it on the MLS and everybody's going to show up, I might. But I might not. So we have to think through as a business owner, and having the conversation with our seller just has to be second nature for us. We can't be afraid to have the conversation about anything. And if we have it proactively, they're a lot less likely to give us pushback because we're bringing it up. Hannah, my team works at a 3% gross commission rate. What that means is if we sell your house for $300,000, $9,000 will come right off the top. That goes to my brokerage. I can show you how it splits up, but I get a third of it. The government gets a third of it. Real estate gets a third of it. That's probably not necessary for you to know. However, what really is important is your net to pocket. Now, I know there's a lot of agents that will do it for 2% or 2.5% or 1%. That's just not typically how we work because we want to give you first-class service, and we can't do that if we don't have the funds to do it. Are we good moving forward? Right? Like you can give them the rebuttal before she didn't even ask for it, but I could just say, hey, a lot of people do this, this, and this. We don't really do that. Like I can shut it down so then she doesn't even have to ask. It's like a preemptive strike.
And you've already went through this whole exclusive right to sell. You have 14 people that show it.
Okay.
So they've got cameras up. They go, and they're shit. That's my ex-brother-in-law, ex-wife. I'm not paying her commission either. But the other 12 they're good with. But one of those two, they're not paying. I don't like the fact that we can't hold our buyers accountable, like our sellers accountable. Once they say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and pay the 3%, they go, nope, not to that person, not to that person, not like that. What's going to stop them? Like, what in this contract says that because basically they get an option to choose.
Here's what we do. Technically, that's a violation of fair housing. So the way that you can circumvent that is if you're concerned about it, don't share the actual contract with them where they can see the people's names. We'll put especially if we get multiple offers, we'll put it on just like a little grid. I don't know. I can probably print one off for you, or I'm happy to share mine with you. It's just an Excel spreadsheet, and it's just an offer comparison sheet. You can do it in Command. I just like the look of the Excel one better. And I can put all the offers in there. I don't have anybody's names, marital status, familial status, sexual practice, whatever. I don't have any of that on there. I just have the dollars and cents and what the net offer is. And I go, here's the what? But they don't know what offer they don't know whose offer is whose though. So like, oh, well, I saw so-and-so, which one is theirs? I don't know. Like that doesn't matter. We can't make decisions on that. Which number do you like the best? What if the people show up though? I know where Jen's going to go next. What if only one person comes to look at it? They freaking hate their guts. And that's the offer that we get in. Well, then you're screwed and you need to hire somebody else. I don't know. Like, I mean,
They can't say I'm not going to pay for her because she brought in my ex-husband. So they can't. It's written in the agreement that they are agreeing, and it has to be according to CCRR. It's straight across the board. You can't take into because you don't like the lease half.
because it's awesome.
And then you need to drop it to 315,000, then you decide you're not going to pay fire. Can you do that? Can you change halfway through your contract?
Yeah, you could until you're under contract, until you have an actual contract, because there's a difference. There's an offer and there's a contract, right? An offer is somebody wrote me an offer on a real estate sales contract, but my sellers have not signed it yet. Just the buyers did. So I might have 5 offers, but I'm not under contract. Until I'm under contract, I can change that agreement with the sellers anytime I want. I can make there's an addendum for it, right? So I could change that at any point, whether we're renegotiating commission, even if it's the renegotiating the price, I have to have them fill out a price change form, right? So they fill that out in advance, but whatever change I make, now that's equal across the board. I can't pick and choose and go, well, I'll do this for these buyers, but I'm going to only do this for these buyers. And I'm willing to do this for these buyers. Like the decision is for the buyers, whatever you decide to do. Now, that being said, you get an offer in, one of them is asking for closing costs and one of them's not. Can I pick and choose which one I want? Can I do something different? Can I negotiate differently? I can totally negotiate the terms of the contract. I can't go, well, I'm not going to take his offer because he wears a blue shirt. Now they might choose not to take that. They can't tell her that. As soon as they tell her that, now who's in jeopardy of losing their license? She is. She had some, like my parents. I love my parents. I love them. I sell a property for them, and my dad asks all the wrong questions, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, even if I did know, I can't tell you that. Like, do they have kids? Are they like, oh, I don't know. Like, even if I did, I can't, like, we can't make any decisions based on that. That's part of our professional responsibility, right? We're a licensed professional and we have to make ethical decisions on the fly all the time. Even we may not be able to serve a client. We may have to lose them as a client if they're asking us to do things that are in violation of our ethics, because that's what the real estate commission is there for, is so that the general public is protected from agents and people and people that want to. I get it. Like, exes can be a real pain in the butt. I'd love to give them one last like stab too, but according to your professional's license, you can't do that. We, unfortunately, because we have a professional's license, we have to operate and have a certain level of conduct. And if we're in violation of that, then somebody could file a formal complaint with KREC or MREC and we could lose our license. If you're willing to jeopardize your license, yeah, do whatever you want. I'm not. I'd rather lose the client. I'd rather lose the one $6,000 commission check than that.
Like they weren't on the price.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so they can just say, hey, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission. You just change that. And now what's going to happen? The first offer that comes in is going to be asking for a buyer's agency commission. And they're going to have to make a decision. Do we want to sell the house at these terms or not? Yep. Yeah. What about, where we were out of time, really? Deferred maintenance. We kind of hit that as we went, right? Pricing. Let's hit this one real quick and then we'll get out of here. Because are people always going to ask us to price at a list price that we know won't cause the house to sell? Yep, they sure will. Can you take an overpriced listing that you know won't sell at that price? Yep, I got one right now. I told you a little bit about it. I got an awesome offer in hand and she ain't going to take it. Well, we have a decision to make. Like, man, we've spent a lot of time. We've spent money. We've paid for marketing. We've paid for photography. Like, we can let it ride, or we can just tell her, like, gosh, I mean, if you're not willing to take this offer, I think we're done. I mean, it's just not going to sell for that price. Like, I'm probably not going to spend any more money on it. I'm happy to just let it ride until it expires. But you just tied my hands behind my back. I mean, you're already listed above what I said the ceiling was going to be. You're not willing to take $1 less. Like, now it's just a wing and a prayer, hoping that like some idiot pays over what it's worth. And are there people out there willing to do that? Yes. Could it happen? It's possible. If somebody wants us to price outside of the range, you have a choice to make. Do I want to take an overpriced listing or not? That's one of the scripts on the listing presentation. We're going to decide today whether or not you choose to hire me as your agent, and I'll choose if I'm going to accept your listing or not. Because you might want to price it for $1 billion and you live in Eagle Glen. And I'm not going to, like, it's just not going to work for me, right? So that's again, it's a tough conversation. Most of our clients, though, they want an agent that's professional enough to have a tough conversation with them. Hannah, I can appreciate that you want $980,000 for your California split in Eagle Glen. The market is just not showing that it's going to bear that. It looks like the California splits have sold between 375 and 425. At this one at 425, do you think that your house is going to command more than 425? Theirs has this, this, and this. Yours has this, this, and this. And she's like, I just want to try it. Great. Am I willing to take it? I might have to say, like, I think I'm just the wrong agent for you. And here's why. The only thing that's going to happen here is I'm going to fail you. And I don't want to fail you. And I don't want to waste your time. And I don't want to get your hopes up. And I don't want to ask you to leave your house for showings when I know that nobody's going to come in and pay $875 for it when they can buy the one 3 streets over for $410. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope that you'll give me a referral in the future and tell all your friends about me, and I'll not take their listing if it's overpriced also.
Expert says, okay, we do it your way for a couple weeks, and then if it doesn't work out, then let's try it my way.
Yeah, totally do that too.
It's like,
Yeah, we'll give your strategy a try, and we're gonna market it the same way, and I'm gonna go to town for you. And if that doesn't pan out in 10 days, we're gonna price reduce it to this. Would you sign off on that today? Yep. Okay, great. Well, then let's move forward. Okay, email me if you need any of that stuff or want any of it. And if you come up with any questions, just send it to me and we'll get them addressed. Thanks so much for your time today, you guys. Yeah, hopefully it was helpful. Awesome, cool. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, you betcha. How many people what? Maybe half. Maybe half-ish. Hey, LB.